Hey guys, welcome to Traditional Bow Hunting and Wilderness Podcast. This is Jason Samkoviak. Quick question that we're going to answer here that I get all the time because I talk about it a lot, and that is, fit and finish of a bow. What do you look for in a bow? What makes that fit and finish good on a bow? Every bowyer's got their own recipe for limb design and mount layers and how many laminations they got in them and how thick they want to use the glass, and that's all that's all their recipe of stuff. We as a bowyer, I'm looking for fit and finish kind of details on there that I want to pay attention to. And I'm going to cover a couple of those for you here real quick that I personally watch for with my bows. And we have one here that's made by Steve Teray at Northern Mist. Those are the bows I shoot, and it's a perfect example because honestly, very hard to argue. Steve builds his bows have got some of the nicest fit and finish you could ever get, plain and simple. He puts so much care and attention to those little details that they're pretty unmatched in that category. Arguably, some people are going to argue otherwise. That's fine. I'm just saying it's my opinion, and a lot of people feel the same way. But it is a good example of the things that I look for out there. And if these aren't right on yours, it's not that it's necessarily a bad bow. These are just things that I look for and I pay attention to whenever I'm looking at a bow. When I look at a bow, when somebody hands me a bow, goes, "What do you think of this?" The things that I want to pay attention to on there are some simple stuff here that we're going to cover. First of all, first thing I want to look at is going to be the nocks. Okay, the nocks are key for me. I'm a stickler for them. Now, whether they're correct or not, like I'm going to show you, it doesn't really matter as long as they're not chewing your string up or becoming a problem for you. But for me, the nock detail that you see in here, right in here, is vitally important for me. Okay, these nocks have to be there has to be certain advantages in setups. I'm trying to get you perfect focus here. There you go. So for me, what I need is those nocks to be the same depth on both sides. I pad my strings. You can see I'm using this is a 16 strand Dacron on here. When I shoot D97s, I would actually bulk them up with, I'd bulk them up to, I'd use an 18, or not D97, I was using Fast Flight Plus. I'd run 18 strands, and then I bulked them up to 22 with Dacron on the ends. And but by doing that here, what happens is I want that tip, that nock on there, to be even on both sides. Okay, so when I look at that down that, again, I'm going to try and get you perfect focus here. Hold on. But I want that nock even on both sides. So the same depth in on both sides. I want them cut at the same exact matching angles on both sides so that they are going to take the right line. This point right here, I do not want this point right here to be a hard edge point, real hard. I want that rounded well so that I'm not chewing strings up and ripping through them. Now, obviously, with all strings, this is where most of the wear is going to end up being, is on your string nocks, but I do not want that to chew strings up prematurely. So for me, that nock design, making sure that they both are cut in at the same angles, not one like this and one like that, that they both go in and they're both the same depth on both sides. That matters to me, and like I said, his is just about perfect. Again, I feel that right on there, exactly where I want it to be there, like that when I'm going down there. I got that same, the nocks are vitally important to me, that they're ground the right way. I also do love this from Steve. I like how he blunts the bottom one. Again, trying to find focus here for you. The bottom one is blunted off here on there, rounded off like that, so it's less of an exaggerated point than what the top one is, where you can see here the top nock is longer and pointier like that, and that's okay because I never set the bow down on that one. Okay, it doesn't go down on that, but it does get set on that bottom one. I like that so that I'm not, less chance of me damaging or cracking. Again, it's kind of tricky to catch perfect focus. There we go. Damaging or cracking if it was like this on the bottom one. I prefer that blunt. I'll pull it off one more time. That blunt design on the bottom of my bow tip, so that it's just more durable down there, because that's the one that you're dropping on the ground all the time. Now, I use a bow tip protector, and I cut it my own length so that it's actually completely sealed, no water can get in there, and I cut it like that so that it doesn't bother nothing, so I can pull it on and off, but again, for more protection, because I'm always setting my bow down, just sticking it down on the ground like this, and that is going to keep that protected. So those knot tips are very important for me. I watch those, and I see a lot of bows where one's deep, one's not, one's crooked, you get all this offset and everything on there. That bothers me. It's just I'm a stickler for it, and I've had bows in the past that I had to send back because they would chew through a string every couple, you know, you go through a string a month because they would just break right at that point because there was too hard of an edge. Most bowyers, if yours is doing that, will take it back and they'll fix that, or you can fix it yourself for that. But those are things in the nocks that I'm looking for, okay? Another one what I want to watch for is at the fade outs. I'm not taking my quiver off, so you're going to look at it this way. But see where this fade out is on here? Right here where this riser, the dark wood, comes in and meets and just disappears on its own naturally, okay? See how it just fades right out to here to absolutely nothing, okay? There's no hard, blunt, stopped point. It just completely fades to completely nothing. That's what you want a fade out to do. I like that. If it comes out and then it just is a hard, like almost a knife or squared off edge, and then you got that filled with just glue or whatever, that bothers me. I want that fade out to fade out naturally all the way to infinity as it just disappears and feathers right into that. That's very important for the functionality of the bow. I like that. You can see it there good. Let me see where else you can see it at here on the front ones. Yeah, because my strap's not in the way, but you can see here how that fade out fades right out perfectly like that, no blunt stops. So that one is an important one for me too that I watch for, is that fade out. Another one is the finish itself. I want to take that bow and I want to rub my hands down the finish of that bow and I want to see what it feels like, okay? This one is unique because this is actually gloss, hand buff gloss that Steve put on here, and then I dulled it down with some steel wool, and I love it. It's my favorite finish. It's the only way I'll do them now. Love it. But you want to rub your hand down. I want to make sure I'm feeling for anything that's in there. I want to check these edges on here. I don't want sharp edges on there, okay? I want them to be slightly smoothed out, sanded out right, and just quality on there. I don't want any hard edges. I am also not a fan at all, like I'm going to roll my grip up here for you, okay? So you can see here on my grip, see how this is nice and rounded here and has kind of that nice blunt shape? I don't like them when they come to a hard point. I don't want a hard point. A hard point is an easy spot for things to come apart. I like that kind of a taper where they're like that. Same with up here. I want that shelf to come down and see how it just kind of dies out nice and smooth. It does not come to a very aggressive point. I don't want any hard points anywhere on there. Again, it's my personal preference, but it's also a place of failure in my opinion. You have very little glue on the end of a point. I like how that stuff is blunted out. And then the last thing I'm looking for when I look at it is I want to take that bow and I want to look right down just like this, and I want to look down this string and make sure that that string runs right down the center of this limb, through the center of the grip, and down the center of that limb. You want that thing to be perfectly centered all the way through, and you'll see if it's not. And that's a sign of good workmanship on there, is that that string is tracking true right through the center of the bow. So those are the things that I watch for on there. And then, like I said, the finish itself, just overall, how is it? Now, another important feature for me that you spot right off the bat, those ones are ones you got to kind of look at. I like a radius shelf. Okay, I want that shelf to have a little radius in there. You can see I got one little wear mark right here on the top of that radius. So when I put an arrow on there, which I will grab here, let's use a judo, let's throw my tab down. But when I put my arrow on here, it rests on that radius. See, here's that radius there. So if I pull this off, but you can see there's a radius on that shelf, okay, that's there. I like that. Now, not only is there a radius on the shelf, there's a radius to the actual sight window too, which I'm hoping you'll see on here when you're looking at it. There's a radius on that shelf, and so I'm going to come in closer. So hopefully you can pick that up. But there's a radius on that actual shelf, or on the sight window. So I have double. So I have a radius here, and I have a radius here on that whole setup, which minimizes. So even with all the crazy shooting I do and the short draw where I'm turned, you know, I shoot this way full length, but when I turn this way and shoot, I'm only getting like 20 inches of draw, and I do all this stuff, all the things I do when I practice, and my wear is that one little speck right there, and that one little speck right there, which again, as I shoot different ways, you're going to get different, you know, little different stiffness of the arrow, but look at how minimal because of that sight radius here and the shelf radius here. So those are important to me also. They come in handy for the functionality of that kind of stuff. So in my opinion, those ones really do matter to the things I'm looking for, and that basically is it. Now, as far as tip overlays and things like that, honestly, I used to love tip overlays, and I still don't have a problem with them when you put them on there. But they are one more piece that can of glued on furniture, technically, that could become an issue later on. I love the tip wedges like we have here that are actually inside. Okay, now on a lot, not many people do this on R&D bows, but on ASL style bows, the wedges are very nice. I love this. I love that wedge on there where it's glued inside of the bow for that protection and strength rather than glued on the outside just on the tip. So I like them internal like that, and it also leaves that nice and smooth, so when I go to string my bow, it's just real simple to slide my hand. I don't got to fight over that limb tip. Just little preferences, but for me, I really do like that smooth. I like the power wedge that's in here rather than the tip overlay. Again, personal preference, but that one, but these are the things I look for in a bow. These are the things that tell me that it's got the fit and finish I'm looking for, the quality of what I'm after. And you know, and then I also like to look at this thing too. I like to look down the edges of this, kind of catch it in the light and look down there, and I want to look along the edges and everything like that for any dips and things like that. Again, not that they're going to probably hurt the performance of the bow, but it's things that I look for as far as that quality, detail, fit, and finish as I lay my eyes and let them run along that thing, and I watch for any kind of imperfections and things like that in the sanding job. They stick out to you, and they kind of show you the level of what's going on and how well the bow is being built. Again, those ones are not going to affect the performance. You know, I have never, fortunately, never owned a bow that's had air bubbles in them, and I shoot all my bows with clear glass on them. If you have colored glass, you won't see any air bubbles under there. And I actually asked Steve about this once, and he said it's relative to the types of wood. Certain woods, you may occasionally get an air bubble in there, so they're not a big deal. He said, but you definitely don't want lots of bubbles. Now, I've seen in my life 2 bows that have had so many bubbles under the glass that it made me nervous that there was a chance. Hang on, sorry, let me turn that off. I've seen 2 that had so many air bubbles underneath that glass that it actually would make me nervous to shoot it because of a chance of it delamming. But you want to watch for any of that kind of stuff. But again, not, you know, each wood varies, but I fortunately have never owned in the 6 bows I've owned from Steve, and you know, the bows I've owned for Robertson stick bows and my Jim Reynolds bows, I've never had an air pocket underneath a limb anywhere on any of them. It may be because most of mine are very similar woods. I'm usually shooting a Bacote or a Bacote or a Cocobolo type riser on there. So, and then my limbs have always been elm, or yeah, they've always been elm or whatever Steve's been putting on, like these are olive ash. But like I said, that's, you know, I guess it's relative to the woods that it can or can't happen. But fortunately, I've never had that anywhere on there. And that's basically about it. But that's the fit and finish. That's what we're looking for when you hear people talk about the fit and finish of a bow. You know, that's the stuff we're after. Those little details that just make all the difference. So, I, you know, hope you enjoyed it and gives you a little tip. So thanks for watching.